So there's the 5-year safety net grants, which are focused on existing programming and organizations. There are the 5-year high impact grants, which are focused on sustainable systems change. And then the grant RFP that we've just opened up, that you're attending the pre-bid meeting for, is the 1-year mini grants. And they're focused on providing access to non-traditional grantees. So they are annual grants of $40,000 to human service organizations. And so a total of $400,000 of total funding that'll be allocated in 2024. So that is funding for 10 different nonprofit organizations. So again, as I mentioned earlier, and just to reemphasize, we're focused on providing funding to smaller organizations who are addressing poverty, racism, and trauma. You don't have to necessarily be focused on 3. It could just be 1, 2, or 3 as a root cause of institutional inequity here in Washtenaw County. We have a goal of allocating 60% or more of the funding to organizations that are led by individuals with underrepresented identities. That could be related to diverse abilities, LGBTQ status. It could be related to BIPOC identification. And so we are really looking to be able to not only serve diverse communities, but focus on organizations that are led by diverse individuals who have the cultural competencies to serve those communities. And again, this is for organizations with overall budgets of $1 million or less that are eligible to apply for these mini grants. So some of the submission requirements, of course, is that fact that it is now open. We opened up on January 12th for the RFPs. Submissions are due on Friday, February 16th at 5 p.m. And I want to emphasize the 5 p.m. because a lot of times people think, oh, deadline February 16th, I can take it all the way to 11:59 p.m. That is not the case. It has a 5 p.m. deadline. So please be aware of that. I wouldn't want you to do all that work and then not make the deadline. So how to submit your application. Hopefully this will be relatively easy, even for people without a lot of tech experience. Once you have completed the application, you can save the file as a PDF. You're going to want to title it mini grant, the name of your agency, and then the project name of the project that you're applying for. And then you'll email the PDF file and the additional required documents that we'll tell you about later to duffyb@washtenaw.org. And that's Beth Ann Duffy, in case you're curious. So duffyb@washtenaw.org. Proposals must be signed by an official who is authorized to be able to bind your organization to its provisions for at least a period of 90 days. And the signature page must be signed, the box checked below, and returned as part of the vendor proposal. And so this is going to be something that you want to make sure that you do for the application to be eligible. And so when we say somebody who's authorized, that could be the executive director of the organization, a CEO, whatever the title might be, director, or it could be an officer of the board. So those are all people who would be eligible to be able to sign, like a board chair as an example. So if we can move on to the next slide. Please include the following documents as attachments when you submit the RFP, again, to duffyb@washtenaw.org. So proof of your 501c3 or other tax-exempt status. And if you're not a 501c3 or similar tax-exempt entity, please provide information in the form of an attachment that explains if you're using a fiscal agent and if you need or require assistance in finding a fiscal agent for your nonprofit because you haven't received your tax-exempt status yet. Any additional fiduciary documents, such as documents outlining fiscal sponsorship, if you are not a 501c3, would be an attachment. And we're looking for the 2022 or most recent IRS Federal Form 990 exempt organization return. And obviously, if you're a brand new nonprofit, you may not have one of those. But if you've been around for a bit and you have a 990 from the year prior or the most recent one that you have, please submit that. Independent audit and management letter and an A133 audit if applicable. I know not everybody has an external audit done. But if you do in your organization, you'll want to provide that information. And an organizational chart or other attachment that explains, how your organization is structured and who the leadership is in your nonprofit organization. Moving on to the next slide. So wanting to let you know some of the things that you'll be asked in the PDF if you haven't taken a peek already, so you know how to start preparing some of the answers to these questions. And this is a fillable PDF, so you can type right in it. Sometimes people like to put it in a Word document and then copy and paste. That's also an option. So again, fillable PDF for the RFP. It's at washtenaw.org/open-bids. The bid number for this RFP is 8586, and you can type directly into the form, as I mentioned. So hopefully that will make it easy. Some examples of the questions will be about your services and the programs that you provide. So you want to be able to answer that question, and you have up to 3,200 characters for that one. And you're going to really want to be specific to specifically state how it will address racism and poverty and trauma. So you'll make sure you do that. Then we also have the program management question, describing the staffing structure and the key staff responsible for coordinating and providing the services that this specific funding will be used for, would be the next question. And then we have positive impacts of the program, describing, what are the benefits of the program that you are proposing to do. And if it's new, what you anticipate the measurable outcomes and positive impacts are going to be. And if you have already done this, what the outcomes have already been, maybe from a year prior, and what you are hoping they would be in the upcoming grant period. The program participants is talking about who is your target audience with this program, and how are you going to prioritize people with higher need who are historically marginalized identities. Moving on from the program participants, our next category that you will be answering is about root cause analysis for the mini grant program. Since the goal of it is to be able to address one or more of the root causes of institutional inequity in Washtenaw County, it'd be asking you to describe how this funding is going to be used to directly address that, and refer to the language on cause analysis that you'll see in the background section for guidance if you have any questions about that. Next is your agency-wide equity approach. So that was more specific about the program. This is specific about your agency as a whole, describing how your organization already addresses the root causes of institutional inequity. Wanting to know about your agency strengths, describing the qualities that make your agency stand out, what differentiates you, how your agency connects those strengths to provide quality service delivery, and wanting to know about expertise, assets, community connection, your guiding values and principles, your mission, anything else that you see that cultivates the strength of your organization. And all of us are growing. Every agency can have areas of improvement, so we want to know about that too. Describe the areas of growth that your agency is focusing on and what steps you're already taking to make progress in these areas of growth. Then, have you been funded before by Washtenaw County or the City of Ann Arbor or Washtenaw Urban County for programs or services like the services described in this application? And so that's going to be one of the things we're asking you for in this category. So, submission requirements. This is a little bit more related to the budgeting portion of this. This in particular is related to the mini grant itself, not your agency as a whole, but the program you are applying for with this mini grant. So that would be the budget we're asking you to put into this section right here. And please note that the requested funding should cover programmatic costs, which can include salaries and fringe, but overhead costs should not exceed 5%. So just wanted to draw that to your attention. The next budget block that you will see is about the agency as a whole. And whereas the other one was about the expenses of the program, this is about the revenue of your agency. And so that's what you'd be filling out in this form. And so please include that information. And again, remembering that this is for organizations of $1 million or less. To complete the RFP, again, you'll be going to washington.org/2431/open bids. And you're going to scroll down to the RFP number specific to this mini grant, which is 8586. You click on the documents link. And again, it's a fillable PDF, and you can complete it in two ways. Opening up the PDF in a new browser, complete it, actually live in the browser itself, and then click the download button and select, with your changes to save the finished version. Or you can download the PDF to your computer before beginning the RFP and actually complete it on your computer. So those are two different ways, depending on your comfort level and how you would prefer to do it. And again, we're only taking the bids electronically. So you will be delivering the electronic response to this solicitation in PDF format to duffyb@washington.org, again, which is Beth Ann Duffy. And we're going to ask you to please include your company and agency name and RFP number in the email subject line, so she knows what this is about when she receives it and can prioritize it appropriately. And the deadline, again, to have that to Beth Ann is Friday, February 16th at 5 p.m. Eastern. So moving on to the next slide that we're talking about is our rubric, how the review process is going to take place. Again, we are really striving, as we had mentioned, not only to be serving diverse communities, to be able to prioritize nonprofit organizations that are led by diverse leaders, but also to have the reviewing and the selection made by diverse community members. And so we will have a panel of reviewers who are very diverse. They may not have any nonprofit experience themselves. They may not be potentially, some of them affiliated with any governmental entity. They could be, the average everyday, citizen from Washtenaw County who perhaps even needs the services that your nonprofit offers. So when you are doing your writing to answer these questions, please make the assumption that they know nothing about what it is your nonprofit does, or even about that field of expertise, so that you're really speaking to somebody who is not perhaps knowledgeable in our nonprofit communities here in Washtenaw County, to give yourself the best chances for them to thoroughly understand what it is you are saying about your organization. And so I'm going to be asking you to look at the different rubrics so that when you answer the question, you understand how they are grading your answers with the different pointing systems that's there. And so one of the suggestions might be that you have somebody else review what you wrote who is not from your organization, who perhaps doesn't know anything about your organization, to see if it makes sense to them. And if they have questions about what you wrote, to think that maybe one of the reviewers might have the exact same questions if it wasn't clear in what you stated. So that's just a little tip for the best success related to what it is that you write about your organization. So some of the things that they'll be looking at is the component of your agency overview, the description of your agency, its mission, its vision, looking at the services, the program description as well. So that component's based on what it is your organization does, the program management, and that's looking about the program management structure, positive impact of the program. So that's going to be based on the impacts of the service, the program that you're talking about. We're also looking at program participants. Who are you going to be serving? That gets to the root causes of the institutional inequities. Then the root cause analysis, talking about the mini grant itself and how it will address one of the root causes of institutional inequities. Looking at, let's see, moving on to root cause analysis agency-wide. So not just the program itself, but your nonprofit. what does it do in the work that it does to address institutional inequities. The strengths of your agency is the next area. And then we have your area agencies of growth that we mentioned. How are you working on constantly doing improvement in your agency, improving the scope and scale of the services and the quality of the services that you offer. Your proposed budget, absolutely looking at that related to the program, as well as the revenue of the agency. And so some of the deadlines, again, the RFP is already released, as you know. We can accept questions about the RFP up until February 9th, and then we can't answer any questions after that. So if you have any, please make sure you ask those questions prior to February 9th. We hope to have the answers posted on February 12th to the questions that were asked, in case someone asked a question that you yourself didn't, but maybe it's something that you were wondering about, and we have the answer for that already. And then we have Friday, February 16th at 5 p.m. being when the proposals are due. Monday, March 4th through Friday, March 29th will be the community review time period. And that's when the review group will be making their recommendations. We hope to have the recommendations finalized in April. And then knowing that we have a process that we have to do, going in front of Ann Arbor City Council, going in front of the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners for approval of the recommendations. And then in July, we hope to be able to actually start the contracts with the 10 nonprofit organizations that are chosen. So that is the timeline. And if questions come up after this pre-bid meeting that we're having, if it's about purchasing and procedural questions, Angela Perry will be able to answer those. And right now, I'm just now noticing that it's Beth Duffy's email up there. So Katie, did we mean to have Beth's email up there, or did we mean to have Angela's email up there?
No, sorry, that was a typo on our part. Angela Perry is the former purchasing manager, but Beth Duffy replaced her. Oh, sorry about that. It's Beth Duffy.
Yeah, I just caught that right now as we were looking at it. So again, the questions to Beth Duffy. Technical questions to Katie, who is with us right now, or you can email her if you don't want to ask in a group setting. And then to learn more about the new Human Services Partnership itself, there is the online link for that if you would like to learn more about it. And we have this PowerPoint available as well, in case you wanted to be able to access that. So I guess we would now open it up to questions.
I have a question on your application portal. You have where you go for your open bids. You have a link for documents. Then you have a contact link, which is Beth Ann Duffy. And then you have a submit a proposal, but that sounds different than what you just walked us through.
Katie, did you want to do that one?
Well, purchasing oversees the open bids website. It could be that was an older process, but they prefer an email just because the PDF sometimes are hefty. So I think they just prefer it to be emailed to Beth.
I have a question.
Sure, Ross.
So I didn't hear you restrict us to current work and expansion of current work, new work. Are there any parameters or restrictions surrounding the submitted project other than, meeting the threshold in terms of, trauma, racism,
And
and
not
poverty?
received the mini RFP funding in 2023.
I'm sorry, what was that?
And not having received the mini grant RFP funding from 2023.
Okay, so other than that, it sounds like it's wide open.
As long as you're specifically to Washington County,
Yeah.
these are set up for, like capacity building, so there's not much restriction. They're, typically general funding, so we're not setting these up as like, you know, federal funds. So you're correct, there's not many restrictions in terms of like, it doesn't have to be like a new initiative, it can be your current services.
So you just referenced Washtenaw County. Clearly the work has to be in Washtenaw County. Can you do work in other areas or only Washtenaw County? Because Stanley Trans is not specific to Washtenaw County.
But if your project that you are doing is specifically serving Washtenaw County individuals in Washington
Perfect.
County,
Okay.
I know you cover a region.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Tony.
Anne, take your hands up.
Yeah, I was just looking at your guidelines again. And so you mentioned that there's a program, there's the program piece, and there's a bunch of questions about, answering the program. And then there's an agency piece. And so if your program is smaller and sort of self-funded, but it's got for, essentially a parent organization that it's connected to, the agency would be the parent organization. Okay.
Whoever the 501c3 is
Okay.
the governing body.
And I know someone had privately messaged about fiscal sponsorship. If you think you'll need a fiscal sponsorship, so if you're not a nonprofit, if you don't have a parent agency, feel free to email me. We had a few mini grant recipients last cycle that used fiscal sponsors if they didn't have their nonprofit status. So that's also an option. Other questions?
Well, thank you everybody for joining us again. If questions come up after you've started filling out your RFP, as long as it's before our deadline to stop taking questions, feel free to reach out and we will answer those questions to the best of our ability and as quickly as possible.
Thank you so much.
Well, have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Go copy it and then copy the other side.
I haven't jumped off yet because I want to double check with my colleague that she didn't have any additional questions.
Okay.
So as far as the annual operating budget, do you want maybe Emily will ask.
Yeah, because I'm curious is that with the project that we are seeking funding for is for our program, so we can deliver services. And so it seems to me that what we would be providing you would be our most recent annual operating budget that shows expenditures as well as income, and where that income is derived from, as opposed to I know you would not want our parent, our 501c3 parent organization you wouldn't want their overall budget. But
well, if they're 990, if they have a 990, then it would be your organization's most recent 990 that's attached to it. When we're talking about the budget grid that was in there, that was about the expenses. That was particular to the budget for the program that you were proposing to get the grant for. And then the other grid was related to the revenue of your agency as a whole.
okay.
But those
So in all transparency, the program that Anne and I are working with is Telling-It, which is a community-based program. Our administrative home is located at the residential college of the University of Michigan. But the University of Michigan does not provide any funding for our program services in the community. We are self-funded, and so that's it. It's always deceiving when people see an application that's coming from the Regents of the University of Michigan. It really skews which pile our application would go into. And so I would just want to be fully transparent, is that the university provides our fiduciary oversight and to provide the 501c3, the nonprofit status. And of course, we have to adhere to all of their personnel policies, fiscal policies, everything. So, but we are self-funded. Telling it is self-funded.
So you're like public media, basically, like the Michigan radio station, right? Which is under the guidelines of the university, but they have to provide all their own funding.
That's exactly right. Yes. And so that's why I was thinking, oh, well, if I provided you with our most recent annual operating budget, you know, that would hopefully provide you with the information that you need, because our proposal will focus on being able to accomplish our mission.
And so like if you do an attachment to explain that, because remember, we're not the reviewers.
Right, that's exactly right.
So do an attachment to explain what you just said to us, that, you know, you're totally self-funded, though you're under the umbrella of U of M, they do not fund you at all, that you're responsible. And here is our annual operating revenue. And here's the expenses for this program. And so explain that in it, that you are a self-funded, standalone underfunding, but under the umbrella of U of M, just to give the reviewers a better understanding.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tony. I really appreciate that, because yes, it can be complicated.
But yes, I'm familiar from the lens of public media. So yes.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you for staying on. And yeah, if we have any questions, we should just email Beth Duffy.
Well, hers are the purchasing questions.
Okay, so we can just, I'm sorry.
Purchasing.
We would go with Katie. We would email Katie directly.
Email Katie. Okay, thank you.
That's okay.
I have a question. So I filled out a 990N. So give you a copy of that.
Mm-hmm, that'll work.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. I'm going to jump off. So
Okay. Bye, Emily.
okay, appreciate it.
Okay, I just also noticed something else on your website. You do have a deadline of 10 a.m. And I know that you said it's 5 p.m. and I know that it's on the application copy that we have, but we'll go through an office that will look at this website. So I just
to update the website, or is that Beth's page that has that?
It's on the, when you go to open bids and you scroll down for the actual RFP for 8586, like our organization is going to look at this and go, well, the deadline's 10 a.m. But you know, like your deadline's really 5 p.m. So it's just not clear.
Different website pages are controlled by different departments within the
Yeah.
town. So that's why
It's
I'm
all good.
asking Hannah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a purchasing error. We've always had it as 5 p.m. So I'll see if they can update that.
It looks like the dates on this page are also wrong.
Yeah, the PDF reads February 20th, 5 p.m. and that's going to be problematic for our review.
Okay. Yeah, I can email someone about that.
So purchasing, we had it as the 20th, and then purchasing said that they'd be out of town and they had to move it up. So it is the 16th.
Okay, I don't know if you can make a modification to the viewable PDF on your page or not. Maybe the 5 p.m. deadline isn't as cumbersome as the actual RFP statement, because they do like essentially a legal review because it's contractual, because the university is the fiduciary responsibility of all external funding. And they're going to push back on me with this.
I will ask them if they can update. Sorry about that.
No, that's totally
yeah.
fine. Thank you so much for taking the time to get that update.
Well, sorry, it's confusing.
No,
Sometimes we're so decentralized.
we are too.
It's sometimes the information doesn't match, but the actual dates will be what is on the RFP, and we will see to try and get finance to update their webpage.
Thank you so much.
Sorry about that confusion.
Have a great day.
Bye.
I'll email Katie if anything else pops up, but thank you for your help.
Thank you.
I popped a question in the chat as well. Thank you guys for staying on. Just wondering if our executive director oversees program staff, if that would be considered program costs or a part of overhead.
Would that be a Beth Ann question? Or do you already know that answer, Katie?
I don't know the answer.
That's probably a Beth Ann question then, since it's.
Okay, I can email it. All right, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Deshawn, Maria, Joy, you're still on. Did you have additional questions?
Hi everyone, this is Maria Militzer.
Hi,
Not necessarily. We have been thinking about which of our activities will be will be more appealing to the reviewing committee. But honestly, what our communities need right now is financial assistance, and I'm not sure if this type of direct financial assistance is considered a human service.
What kind of financial assistance are you thinking?
Um,
Rental or?
rental,
Yeah. I would think
rental
that's
and
human
medical
services.
expenses.
human service. We provide
Absolutely.
rental assistance through our office as well. So any type of assistance that helps people from getting evicted or keeps their utilities on,
Right.
provides them with housing options so they don't end up being homeless.
Exactly.
If we're talking about food, all of those things fall under human services.
Excellent. And I wasn't clear about the source of the funding this time. We have learned in a very negative light sometimes that when funding comes from the federal government, there are some immigration related barriers that not everyone could access. Even when they need the assistance, they could not access federal funding without a proper social security number or things like that. So I was wondering if this funding will have similar barriers.
These will be Washtenaw County general funds, most likely. We're trying to avoid using federal funds for mini grants. So hopefully you won't have that issue.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That's great to hear. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, as long as you're serving residents of Washtenaw County.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That doesn't, to my knowledge, matter about their citizenship status or immigration status.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Which grant did Maria just mention she was looking at? Or which section? Maria.
Oh, the mini grants?
Yeah. But she said under, you have to align with one.
Oh, where the funding was coming from, whether it was federal funding, and if there were any types of requirements under the funding that would require Social Security documentation, and if you were not
the question before
Social Security number, would that be problematic?
Hey Maria, are you still on? Okay.
Yes.
Which section of the grant did you say you were looking at?
Well, it's not a grant necessarily. It was a program to assist families with housing issues and
Okay. But the
families that
question,
applied to it, but they
I
weren't
get
able
that.
to access that assistance.
But you said would it go under? You asked her what it would go under what part of the section of the grant?
It's not related to our grant. She was referring to different
Oh,
from another grant.
oh,
Federal
Yes.
grant.
okay,
Yes.
okay, okay.
This is not a
So
federal
my question,
county grant.
my question is, because my question is okay. So I have this goal to be able to take alternative high school students for to the airplane museum and fly in a ride in a helicopter. They have a World War II helicopter. Okay, there's like less than 3% of African American commercial pilots. And so the thought is to introduce them into things that they can do, that they might not be aware that they can do, or never even thought that they would be able to, in which they can, but they're not aware of these, jobs or whatever that they can go, that they can get because they're stuck, they're just, their eyes haven't been open to it, different things in life. Would that fall into this anywhere? No.
You would just have to be sure to address how the program you are proposing will address inequities that exist systemically related to racism and trauma.
Okay. Okay, racism and trauma. Thank you.
The three main criteria related to the grants and whatever it is that you are proposing to do, always being able to reflect back on how that is going to address poverty, racism, and trauma as a root cause of institutional inequities in Washtenaw County. And keeping in mind that this is a human services grant.
Well, that goes into the economy and having a better salary than they usually would. I'm thinking something to that effect, right? Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great day, Joy. Good to see you, Maria. Bye.